Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming this evening. I'm Patricia Snoyer. I'm a drama professor, and I am so pleased to see you all here. It is my great honor to get to introduce Chancellor Mullen, who will kick off the evening for us. So, Chancellor Mullen.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Someone earlier this evening described Pat Snoyer, who is a wonderful member of our faculty, of our drama department, a leader in theater for children through the Tanglewood Children's Theater, as also being the diva of decorum. And I must tell you, I don't know if that's the title, but she knows how to put on a heck of an evening, and I think we should acknowledge that. It is my great privilege as Chancellor to welcome you to our second annual Honorands Dinner at the University of North Carolina at Asheville. I must tell you, I think this is one of the most magical evenings of our year. It is very special for our university. All of us look forward to the Honorands Dinner each year. We do so because it's our chance to truly gather as family. Family from the campus, family from the community, and celebrate the achievements of our distinguished honorands. And as we do so, we also celebrate as well our commitment to excellence as a liberal arts university. That we're able to do so in the company of so many of our friends from the community makes this very special evening even more special. And I want to thank all of you who join us at your university this evening to share a wonderful, wonderful evening with some of the most distinguished people in this country. So I would ask you now, before we begin dinner, to allow me to invite Alex Comfort of our campus community forward to offer the invocation.
Let us pray. Almighty God, giver of all good things, we give you thanks for this gathering, our students, faculty, staff, and friends. We ask you for your blessing on us and this food you have provided us. Infuse us with your Spirit so that our walk with you may be in accord with your will and that we may display your greatness in all that we do. We acknowledge, O Lord, the challenges inherent in this world, and thank you for the opportunities you have given us to grow, to become closer to you, and to serve those around us. Thank you, Lord, for the inspiration and examples of faith, courage, and commitment from our honorands, our UNC Asheville leaders, and members of our university family. Thank you for the occasion we celebrate tonight and tomorrow. Be with us as we focus on our mission to provide growth and opportunity to our students, and be with our students as they go forward in your service in their lives ahead. All this we pray in knowledge of your Hesed, your steadfast love. Amen.
Thank you, Alex. Now, why don't we enjoy dinner and conversation somewhere around dessert. I'll be back and we'll begin the formal ceremonies. Thank you. Good evening again. I think this qualifies as somewhere around dessert, and I hope you've had a pleasant dinner and good conversation. If I might just begin the more formal program this evening by acknowledging some very special folks who are here this evening, and we're very privileged that they are with us. First of all, from the Board of Governors of the University of North Carolina, it's a great privilege to welcome from Charlotte, Addison and Sue Bell. Thank you very much for being here. And from our own hometown here in Asheville, on the Board of Governors, Ed and Donna Broadwell are here this evening. And if I might, I'd like to introduce the members of the Board of Trustees of the University of North Carolina at Asheville. They had a hard, long day today in board meetings, and they worked very, very hard for your university. And I feel very lucky as Chancellor that I have such a distinguished board with which to work. If I might introduce them briefly, Ruth and Luther Barnhart and his wife Ruth are here this evening. Sue McClinton and Raymond are here this evening. Pam and Jim Turner. Pam completed 8 extraordinary years as a member of the Board of Trustees today, and as I told her today, that doesn't mean that she's going to get away from this university. The chairman of our board, Rob Cranford, and his wife, Ginger. Charles Tolley is here this evening with his daughter, Elizabeth. Chapel Carter and Micah. Mike Tanner. Welcome, Mike. George and Barbara Groom. From the great city of Raleigh, Bill Orr. I'm spending a lot of time in Raleigh lately, Bill. Bill, as well, is completing 8 years of wonderful service to the university, and Bill, thank you so much. Al and Shirley Whitesides. And I'm honored as well to introduce tonight the chair of our foundation board. And again, they work so very hard for this university. David and Jane Wilden are here. David. And if I might, because she represents such an extraordinary faculty, the chair of the Faculty Senate is here this evening, Kathy Mitchell. And I never enter a room that this person graces that I don't introduce her, because she reminds me every time I come in this room of the great responsibility I hold as Chancellor, Helene Highsmith. And it's now my privilege to introduce to you the 3 extraordinary individuals who tomorrow will receive the degree Doctor of Humane Letters. I will introduce each honorand by taking the privilege of reading the citation that each will receive at tomorrow's commencement ceremony. And then I will ask each to step forward, if they would, and join me and offer a few moments of reflection. Myra Janko Daniels. Myra Janko Daniels is a person of signal achievement in at least 2 distinct fields of endeavor. In a 30-year career as an advertising executive and educator, she was a leader of the first rank. She rose to head the Draper Daniels Corporation, thereby becoming the first woman to serve as chief executive officer of a major national advertising firm. As impressive as that accomplishment is, it was destined not to stand alone. Having established herself as a force in the world of commerce, she began to turn her extensive talent and energy to an additional love, the world of arts. Classically trained in both dance and music and a lifelong patron of the arts, she was drawn to a role of fundraising leadership on behalf of the arts. She led a highly successful drive to build a major symphony facility, the Philharmonic Center for the Arts of Naples, Florida. Subsequently, an art museum of outstanding quality was added to the complex, its conception and completion owing once again in substantial measure to her vision and her inspiration. Naturally gifted, with abundant measures of talent, creativity, and energy, she demonstrated from an early age the discipline and determination necessary for building from such gifts a life of exceptional accomplishment and exemplary service. In celebrating her today, we celebrate exceptional achievement in corporate life, love of arts, appreciation of culture and beauty, and dedication to the highest values of selflessness and civic responsibility. Her achievements afford an admirable example of effective engagement in the world on behalf of one's fellow citizens. And so it is that tomorrow, in the bright sunshine, I will have the great honor of joining Chairman Cranford and our faculty to bestow upon Myra Janko Daniels the degree Doctor of Humane Letters. Myra, would you join me?
I know who is going to do my OB. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm awfully pleased to be here tonight. And Jim asked me to think about a person, a place, or an idea that changed my life. And so I'm going to bore you with the one woman that I felt was the most important to my life. He also put a time ticker on this. It's my grandmother. My grandmother stood 4'11". She wore Queen Mary turbans and tweed suits. She was a businesswoman when women were supposed to be in the kitchen making bread. She made a different type of bread. My grandmother taught me the basic principles of business. At age 4, an only child and someone who was lonely, living in the dunes of Gary, Indiana, my grandmother said, "Would you like to come to business with me?" And I thought, oh, she's inviting me to be a part of her firm. She wasn't. She opened a closet when we got there, had a child's desk, and she said, "And now, dear, what business do you want to go into?" Well, I wanted to go into her business, which was real estate development, and that was impossible, so I thought of a business. But in leaving me in this closet before we had a business lunch, my first business lunch, she said, think of something you like to do. Think of something you do well. Think of something that people want or need. That's tough for a 4-year-old. But I was an amazing craftswoman. I painted, and I drew, and I made crepe paper hats. And being an only child, they sort of let me do those things. And so we sat around the dining room table at night, and everybody looked strange. They looked like a Calder clown. We all had different color hats, and sometimes I would make baskets. And so I thought, I like to do that. I do it well, and it's needed for other people's parties. And so I decided on the Janko Party Making Company, of which I was president. Now, I was not a party girl, but I was a party maker. It was all wonderful until I got home that night and told my dad, and he said, well, how are you going to sell this? I had never thought of that. So I said, I'll think about it and tell you tomorrow. And I knew, because I didn't go to school, I had to have someone who was in school who would help me. And I found this young man by the name of Hedgewood. Hedgewood was 6 years old, and he used to play with all these kids who were having birthday parties. And so I waited for him, and he passed the next day with his knickers and his lunch pail. And I said, want to go into business? You can be a vice president of my company. Hedgewood bit when I said, and I'll pay you 10 cents a week. He finally said, what does a vice president do? And I said, you take my little red wagon and you deliver these gifts, these hats and baskets, and my fudge, if I make it, to the mothers of these children who are going to have parties. And we'll charge 1 cent for a piece of fudge, or 1 cent for a basket without a piece of fudge. But for 2 cents, you get both. And you must find out when their birthdays are, when the party is going to be, and I'll do the production. Well, one day Hedgewood did what any bright young man would do. He wanted to know about the finances of the firm. And as some of you know, I ask lots of questions about finances because they're a necessary evil. And he saw my book. And my book said what we made and what we spent. And he said, what's in your book? And I said, look at it. Wrong. He saw the name Myra with 20 cents. He saw his name with 10 cents. And he quit. And I cried. My family told me that I announced that he wasn't vice president material. But out of all that, I don't know what happened to Hedgewood. I think he probably hates women. But it was an early experience of making and spending. I am very much into the arts. I love the arts, and I work hard for it. But my grandmother also introduced me to the arts. We went to a big art showing. And by this time, I was 8 years old. And she said, I hate to say this, but my nickname was Angel. She said, Angel, would you like to buy a piece of art? Well, it took me, as she reminded me for years, about 2 hours to decide which little piece of art. I still have it. It's not worth much, but I have it for sentimental reasons, and you will understand. I bought it, but I didn't buy it because my grandmother loaned me the money. Now, my very own grandmother loaning the money and making me sign a note. And every week I had to pay her a little bit. Well, 3 years went by, and the damn painting didn't look so good. But for Christmas, I got a card saying the rest of my note, and she had torn up the note, was gone. What I think is most important that I learned, and it did change my life, and being in the fields of business that you people are in, and in the academic field, the art field. At a very early age, my grandmother said, it's time for you to have what do they call it? You know, when you get so much a week. Allowance, yes, an allowance. And I see it wasn't much, and so I forgot. And she dropped into my hand 50 cents. And I clenched it, and she said, now how much of this are you going to give away? And they tell me, I said, none. It's mine. And she said, give it back. And think about how much you should give away. Well, I was smart enough to know that that one beautiful 50-cent piece meant 5 dimes. And I had just started school, and we had these lift-up desks that many of us sat behind. And I raided my mother's gift cards and took some little envelopes and suggested to my grandmother that if she would trade that for 5 dimes every week, I would give away 2. And I thought that was big time. And I would give it away to some child, slip it in their desk, who wouldn't know where it came from. But someone I thought didn't have an allowance. And then I'd get to school early and do this, and then I'd watch. And I'd trade these kids around. Well, it was so much fun that on the 3rd week, I gave the 3rd dime away. And within a month, I gave all but 1 dime away. And, you know, there was great joy in it. And I think my wise grandmother taught me that it is so much better to give. And if you can give, you get a joy that you get from nothing else. I guess, too, that because of the circumstances of my family, and because they believed in me, how they did, and they felt that all things were possible. All things were possible if I believed in myself and in my God. I thank you.
Adelaide Daniels Key. Adelaide Daniels Key is esteemed across our campus, our community, region, and state as an exemplary doer of good works. Making life better for others has been a central mission of her life. It was she who had the vision, determination, and ability to bring into being the Lewis Rathburn Center, the extraordinary facility that provides a supportive and caring environment for individuals from other communities whose loved ones are undergoing treatment in Asheville for serious illness. It was she whose vision and generosity made it possible for the University of North Carolina at Asheville to establish our Key Center for Service Learning, that we hope and expect will inspire and equip new generations of leaders to carry on the tradition of service to others, of which she is so stellar an example. And it is she who continues to offer her abundant wisdom, knowledge, and energy in providing leadership to so many other good causes throughout Western North Carolina. Her unparalleled effectiveness at improving the lives of literally thousands of others will continue to inspire both those who hold her dear as a friend and those who know her only through her bountiful good works. She is a treasure of these mountains, and her life is the embodiment of compassion and service. And although she serves as chair of the Board of Trustees of our beloved sister institution in Cullowhee, Western Carolina University, which parenthetically we beat in men's basketball last December. The University of North Carolina at Asheville eagerly asserts its claim to her as our own as well. And it is with the highest pleasure that tomorrow we will signify that claim by presenting Adelaide Daniels Key with the degree Doctor of Humane Letters. Adelaide.
I'm not really sure who's prouder tonight, me or my grandfather. My grandfather has been my mentor all my life. Yes, he died when I was 12, but he has been my guardian angel ever since. By a very simple act that was repeated many times over, he taught me that it was all right to be me. There was nothing bad about this. I was always thought that I was bad. He would say to me, a whistling girl and a crowing hen always comes to some bad end. Then he would just laugh as hard as he could and say, now whistle me a tune. When I whistled, I got hugged. One of my earliest memories of my grandfather was at Christmas. He bought presents for all the children at the Methodist Orphanage in Raleigh every Christmas. And every Christmas Day, he took some of his grandchildren, I being one of them, to help give out presents to those children who had no parents. My grandfather was never too busy for a child. I remember going to his office and in retrospect, I realized how busy he was, but he never told me he was too busy. He would say, don't you want to go ask Miss Mamie to teach you how to run the adding machine? Miss Mamie was the bookkeeper at the News and Observer, and Miss Mamie never turned me away. My parents had very little time for an active child such as I. But I was blessed that I had a grandfather and a Miss Mamie who had plenty of time for me. My grandfather taught me several things that are very important in life. That all people are valuable, regardless of race, color, or creed. he was as comfortable with a small child as he was with the President of the United States. To him, they were equally important. That those who have an obligation to those who have not. He called this noblesse oblige. Even as a child, I had an understanding of noblesse oblige. It has been my mantra all my life. I have always felt that we humans have an obligation to our communities and the people who live there. This has nothing to do with money. We have an obligation to help make our community the best possible place to live. We all have assets. Some of us have money. But we all have talents to mentor, to volunteer. Regardless of economics, we can all work to try to make our community the very best possible. As a child, I was called lazy and stupid or bad. No one really understood learning difficulties back then, except perhaps my grandfather. I struggled in school from first grade through my sophomore year in college at the Women's College at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. I did not fit in school. I dropped out and got married. I thought I was stupid. By the time I realized I wasn't stupid, I had 4 teenagers who knew I was. Oh well. I tell people I have graduated magna cum laude from the School of Hard Knocks. I am greatly honored to be receiving this doctorate of humane letters. I can hear my grandfather applauding. Thank you.
If we might just depart from the program for one moment. Adelaide's sister, Cleves Weber, was unable to travel from Hawaii to join us tonight, but she wanted to do something special in honor of Adelaide. So she's asked that we plant a tree in recognition of this honorary degree, and the plaque which will be attached to the tree will read as follows. For Adelaide Daniels Key and her grandfather, Josephus Daniels, who enriched the lives of the people of North Carolina every chance they got, and together they planted trees. John Hope Franklin. John Hope Franklin is one of the most distinguished scholars of our time. An historian, he has gained worldwide acclaim for his contributions to his discipline, as attested, for example, by his service as Pitt Professor of American History and Institutions at Cambridge University, and as a lecturer in American history in the People's Republic of China. His historical scholarship has won him countless honors and awards of the highest rank, such as, just to name 3, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the Encyclopedia Britannica's Gold Medal for the Dissemination of Knowledge, and the Organization of American Historians Award for Outstanding Achievement. He has been called upon to serve in a variety of roles at the very pinnacle of his profession, including, among others, President of the American Historical Association, Chairman of the Department, and Distinguished Service Professor of History at the University of Chicago, and James B. Duke Professor of History at Duke University. His reputation for wisdom is such that President Clinton chose him to chair the advisory board for his national initiative on race. Still inspiring awe and admiration among colleagues the world around, in his 9th decade, he is surely destined to serve as a role model for other countless scholars yet unborn. Ours is not the first of America's colleges and universities to note Professor Franklin's extraordinary contributions to intellectual and civic life. Over 100 of them have awarded him honorary degrees before us. But none of them has been more pleased and proud than is the University of North Carolina at Asheville. For tomorrow he will deliver our commencement address, and we will all rise proudly to confer upon John Hope Franklin the degree Doctor of Humane Letters. Dr. Franklin.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chancellor. Thank you very much, my co-honorants and my dear friends at the University of North Carolina at Asheville. Let me say, first of all, that I'm honored to be here and to be receiving at your hands this distinction that you have so generously placed upon me. I'm honored, too, to be with these two great ladies as my classmates. And since I am one of the pioneers of women's history, as I told Sarah today, one of my PhD papers was on the constitutional position of the Norman queens. And I'm therefore delighted to agree that one of you will be president of the class of 2001. And I'm sure that the other would be pleased to be the Secretary Treasurer. When I was growing up, it was a given, of course, that we would all go to college. I happened not to be one of those first generation of college students. I represent the second generation on both sides. And so, growing up in a family where my mother was a school teacher and my father was a lawyer, I always assumed that I would be a professional person. But I did not assume that I was going to be what I became. I thought that I was going to be a lawyer, as my father was. But when I went to college in Nashville, Tennessee, at Fisk University, there was this man that came into the contemporary civilization class and who gave a series of lectures. And I had never seen anyone like that before. I hadn't seen anyone whose mind worked like his did. I had not seen anyone prance up and down the floor as he did. And I thought that this man might be an interesting person to meet and to have some closer contact with. And so I decided to take a course with him. And in my second year there, I came in closer contact with him as I took the first course in the history of the United States. It turned out that he was a young man, only 12 years older than I was. He was a white man, my first white teacher. And I thought that as the year went by that there was nothing else that I could possibly do except to major in history and to use this man as my mentor. And when I received my PhD at the age of 26, my mother had departed this life, and my father was still struggling in Oklahoma, and neither of them could come to my graduation, my mother not being living, my father being poor still. But, and Ted Currier, that professor of mine, was off somewhere doing some research on a dissertation which he never completed. And there I was, sort of holding up the side, carrying the banner, not merely for my family, but for Ted Currier as well. And as I moved on down the line, I realized how much my work meant to him. When I became president of the Southern Historical Association, it was Ted Currier who celebrated more than anyone else. When I became president of the Organization of American Historians, it was he who felt that I was getting only what I deserved. And at the last year of his life, when I became president of the American Historical Association, it seemed to me that he felt that at long last he had been fulfilled and he could lay down his burden. And I remember so well the night I talked to him. I said, "How are you doing?" He said, "I'm doing all right." He said, "I wish you were here." He said, "When are you coming?" I said, "I'll be there in 2 weeks' time." He said, "You need to be here tonight." I said, "Well, when I come, I'll be staying for several weeks." And the next morning, the neighbors called me and they said, "John Hope." I said, "Don't tell me. I know." He had gone on. And he had left not merely the legacy of my life, but he had left his life to me in his own accumulated savings and property and everything else. And I said that this is the kind of confidence and friendship that sometimes we who can't see beyond our racial noses can appreciate from the other side of the racial divide. That this man had not only placed his confidence in me, his life in me, but his life's savings in me. And I believe that whatever I do in life was expected, of course, of my parents. Their confidence was unlimited. But whatever I did in life is a part of the life of this man. And I feel that everything I do, I've dedicated a book to him, I've dedicated all kinds of things to him, but I continue to dedicate my life to him because he had so much of his life in me. And that tells me a lot about living in America, tells me a lot about race in America. It tells me a lot about patience and courage in America. And that's the way I feel about that relationship and the influence that it had on me, and indeed, I hope, on generations yet to come. Thank you.
Somehow it is fitting, as this evening draws to a close, that we spend a moment to reflect on what really this university is all about, and that is our students. Tomorrow, the University of North Carolina at Asheville will present 2 awards to recognize outstanding student service. The Reynolds Award for service to our campus, and the William and Ida Friday Award for service to the greater community. And some of the finalists from among whom these award winners will be chosen are with us this evening. And in the spirit of excellence that we celebrate tonight, I would ask the nominees for these awards, of whom you should be so proud at your university, that they might stand themselves and allow us to recognize and applaud them, remembering that it is for them and each of their colleague students that this university lives. Would the students please stand? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being part of a magical evening at the University of North Carolina at Asheville. Mary and I thank you for the privilege of being part of this university, and I thank you for the privilege of being your chancellor. And we look forward together to being part of your community and sharing in a continuing and wonderful journey during the years ahead as all of us work to build the finest liberal arts college in this country. I bid you good evening. Thank you.